Hey guys, Dov here, back with another unit highlight, and today we're talking about the clever girls, the feral cold ones. Today, Gobble Slayers brought them against my Tomb Kings. By the way, Gobble Slayer does have a channel, Slayer Tactics, I believe is the name. I'll try and remember to leave a link down in the description or either in a pinned comment, but here he is against Tomb Kings with feral cold ones. So what do these guys bring to the table? These clever girls, I should say. 90 armor seems nice. They do have really low HP, though, only 2,800 HP. 24 unit models means their unit size is very small, but they do have nice armor-piercing damage. 46 AP, 28 charge bonus, and the best part is they're very cheap. They're, what, like 450 points or something like that? So they're almost like a fire and forget armor-piercing missile in a way. He's also supporting them with some pterodons and some skink cohorts to help them, fend off any infantry attacks or cavalry attacks. He's got main line of Temple Guard and Saurus, including the Regiment-Renowned Legion of Chakwa, cohort of Sotek, great counter for Ushabti Great Bows as they can poison and deal AP, Gorok to tank, and a Beastcaster. It's also got the same mirror out on this flank, but with the Pawhawk Sentinels, Regiment of Renown. So for my build, I've gone with a Khalida, not quite full missile build. I've got 2 Ushabti Great Bows, 2 Sepulchral Stalkers, a couple of Tomb Guard with Halberds, a bunch of Skeletons up front, a Light Mage for Nets and Baroness Time Warp and so on. And yeah, one of the reasons I really like this pick in this matchup is Ushabti Great Bows and Constructs in general are a pretty big risk here. You can see those Carrion getting filled with Javelins as I come over and tie them down, and especially against something like Ushabti Great Bows, right? The armor-piercing damage, even if you don't beat them, I mean, obviously, Ushabti Great Bows are way more expensive than these feral cold ones, so the damage that you can get is excellent. And here, I dive down, those Javelins did a bunch of damage, and as a result, the Carrion will lose pretty hard here. They would lose normally anyway because of the armor differential, but you can see I have to net this Feral Manticore here. It's been summoned and hold it back. Try and keep it from getting to these Ushabti Great Bows. Khalida charges forward, and I'm kind of trying to deal with these Feral Cold ones here, but using the Khalida and Tomb Guard to go after these guys, resource-wise, is horribly inefficient, right? This is way more points than these Feral Cold ones, and as a result, my front line's getting crumped pretty hard here because I'm not using any of these units to support that engagement. Over here as well, like the Tomb Guard with Halberds are holding back, but there's a lot of mass and bodies here, and I mean, with the Saurus fighting, or yeah, these are skinks actually. With them fighting, it'll be okay, but again, I'm having to allocate resources that are way more expensive in order to deal with these Feral Cold ones, so even though they're not dealing that much damage, they are definitely paying for themselves by keeping my forces distracted here, and this unit actually does properly get through and starts to do some damage to Ushabti Great Bows. Ushabti currently juiced up with that Baroness Time Warp. 47 melee attack, punching back pretty decently, but they are taking some damage as well, and keep in mind that unit's so cheap that whatever damage they do take is just bad. Here as well, using the mass plus the poison against these summoned Ushabti, doing that nice little bit of armor-piercing damage there. Pretty good stuff. All the meanwhile, that allows the Saurus and the Temple Guard, the actual expensive units, to come forward, and like I said, my support tools couldn't deal with them. I mean, not that Sepulchral Stalkers, they're ranged attack, same with the Ushabti Great Bows, can do a lot to Saurus and Temple Guard, obviously, but whereas I'm having to run with the Ushabti Great Bows to get away from the clever girls and just, disengage and get free fire lanes, even if they don't end up taking that much damage. I obviously don't want them bogged down. Like you can see, both units actually didn't take all that much damage, but being bogged down, not able to fire there, has been pretty important. And the feral cold ones, feral girls, really, again, don't need to do a lot here. Like this unit that's done a good amount of damage to these summoned Ushabti, and probably some damage on the Sepulchral Stalkers as well. Like that in and of itself is worth it, especially with Gorok here giving a little bit of support. It can last in that fight a little bit longer. You can see Khalida goes out to the side to try and take out that Skink Priest. He's already summoned up his Manticores though, I think. And yeah, here's the other one. I was going to say, I think the second one's coming just now. Yep, there it is. So even though I will be able to take him out, he's already generated quite a bit of value. Finally, I'm able to disengage my Ushabti Great Bows. You can see how little of the ammunition I've used there. Because Gobble Slayer's clever girls have just been zoning me out. Now, finally, most of them have been routed. Although a couple of them are here at the edge of the map, not quite fully shattered. They will be coming back and causing some problems shortly, but The time that they bought was pretty critical. You can see these Saurus Temple Guard basically untouched by the skeletons, which is super important. Even this Tomb Guard here, they are going to beat this unit of Saurus eventually, but they're still taking a lot of damage in the process. And now, Horde of Sotek are pushing up and through. As I mentioned, these guys are also a great tool for Ushabti Greatbows, so just in general, this build is kind of designed to hard counter Ushabti Greatbows, right, in many ways. You have pressure to push into the back line very aggressively. The Clever Girls, I'd be curious to see if I had a more Monster Mash focused build, how they would do in like rear charging and side charging, supporting against more traditional constructs. But given what they were able to do against those Ushabti there, it seems like they would probably trade okay against most things. Maybe not like a Necrosphinx, obviously, but that's like 4 times their cost, so you wouldn't expect them to. But here, Sepulchral Stalkers, again, try to get on this Manticore, get the support of Cleda. I don't just want to stand on top of the Temple Guard and so on, but at this point, things are looking pretty grim. Ushabti Greatbows, again, get caught up by these Feral Cold Ones just momentarily. This unit as well coming through. You can see them getting these hits in here. We're getting close. Watch these Clever Girls as they start to chew on the back of these Ushabti. Ushabti are crumbling anyway, and they would go down regardless, but see that armor-piercing damage. The bites and the little arms, just so hilarious. They're kind of adorable. They do get routed there, but some damage and the mobile harass. And, I mean, because Lizardmen doesn't have any light cavalry, right? And you don't really have any cheap cavalry. These are kind of your closest thing to, like, a cheap mobile unit. And they are relatively mobile. Low leadership is a bit of an issue, but 70 speed's definitely pretty good for an armor-piercing unit. And with 90 armor as well. I mean, again, low HP means they're really not tanky. You shouldn't think of them as tanky, but they are a great distraction tool. Nice little cheap AP. If given support, too, like if you have them in a big blob that gets a Horn of Kygor or, I don't know, whatever, you know, insert melee attack and charge bonus buff, they'll be even that much more cost-effective, right? So here, like, it doesn't look like they did a lot of damage, but just having them, you know, not only distracting my Carrion, just continuously pressuring my Ushabti Greatbows, pulling the Sepulchral Stalkers out of position, and me having to allocate resources to deal with them, distraction factor was enough there that, yeah, like I said, the Temple Guard and the Saurus just ripping through my front line. I had nothing to do to stop it. So, yeah, just talking a little bit more about Clever Girls here. Really like the pick in the Tomb Kings matchup to potentially go after Ushabti Greatbows. Yeah, against faction that has like low tier armored units like dwarfs that you might think are a decent target. I don't know. I think they're a little bit too squishy to go up against dwarfs consistently. But let's go ahead and pull Lizardmen up here. Kind of finish things off. There's a couple of units that are okay comparisons. Yeah, 450 points. One good charge on an armored unit can be enough to make them pay for themselves, especially with the charge bonus active. They're hitting decently hard, you know, 50-something attack, and their weapon strength as well goes up, what, into the 70s on the charge, which is really good, all things considered. But why was I going to Norska? Yeah, like I mentioned, Tomb Kings being kind of a slowish faction that has armored units that really don't have great stats is a reason to use them here. Like Ushabti Greatbows, for example, only 35 defense. It's not amazing. On the charge, definitely, especially these Feral Cold Ones can get some damage in there. You know, like Chariots as well for the Tomb Kings. You can kind of use it against them a little bit, perhaps. Ushabti, the melee Ushabti have better melee defense, but they really don't have all that much melee attack. So, unless they get really lucky, they're not going to do a ton of damage in return to the Feral Cold Ones, at least not quickly enough. I mean, again, you look at the low HP here and you realize it doesn't take a lot to see these guys off, which is definitely their main downside, as I mentioned several times. But other use case scenarios, I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about this. I just played this game recently with Gobbo Slayer and was pretty impressed with how the Feral Cold Ones were able to distract me. Maybe I overestimated them there, perhaps, and I could have just let them get my Ushabti Greatbows, but as mentioned with the attack stat profile, these guys won't deal damage very quickly. Feral Cold Ones do count as large, right? So they're not subject to anti-infantry, that like the melee Ushabti have, for example. So it's interesting. You know, it's pretty interesting. Even Sepulchral Stalkers, too. Again, look, only 22 melee attack. mean, granted, the anti-large does apply here, so that goes up considerably with that. But still, like, you know, Bone Giants, for example, another great target. Low attack and defense for the most part, so the Feral Cold Ones can do really cost-effective damage there. Beyond that, like these upper-tier monsters like the War Sphinx, the Hyro Titan, Necro Sphinx, I mean, maybe if you got a good charge, especially in the side and rear, you could get some good damage, but it's going to be a little bit less reliable because these monsters have better stats. Just thinking through, though, like other armored units that don't have the best stats. I mean, dwarfs, they have pretty good defensive stats, so they can kind of shrug off a lot of those hits. And their ranged firepower and the low HP of the Feral Cold Ones makes them not super usable here. Also, against factions which might be able to out-cav you. Tomb Kings can't really. I guess maybe against Skaven, actually, as a unit that to try and get on Skaven's weapons teams, they would be ideal targets as well. Yeah, just looking at the weapons teams, like especially, obviously, Grinders have really bad stats. They would get absolutely shredded. But even like Globadiers, Warp Fire Throws, I mean, all of them, right? Rattling Guns, the Jezzails, but Mortars especially. Mortars, that's kind of an interesting one because the mortars will do enough damage to the Feral Cold Ones that they'll basically like 2 or 3 shot them probably. But Feral Cold Ones being much cheaper, you can kind of allocate 2 for 1 almost in terms of cost. And if even just one of them lands on the mortars and gets a good charge and takes out a few of their unit models, that can be enough. Can be enough. I mean, Poison Wind mortars also have pretty low HP in general, right? So maybe against Skaven also. I'm not sure using it against Flares or Doom Wheels how that would go. Maybe you'd see a little bit of success there. It's hard to say. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. It was super fun to see that, and I was surprised when Gabo brought it. And pleasantly surprised, I should say. It's nice to see them, and it was very effective. I was surprised how well it did against me. So what do you guys think? What matchups would you bring them in? Me, at least looking at it on paper, obviously Tomb Kings, perhaps Skaven, maybe, I don't know about High Elves or Greenskins. It seems a bit riskier there, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Definitely always enjoy reading your discussion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.